Hey there, welcome to my YouTube channel. Here, we're all about diving into the latest news and random happenings from yesterday to now. Let's explore together what's buzzing and what's fresh on the scene.
Hey guys, what's up? Let's discover what's new today. Now we're going to be looking at the 10 most dangerous prison inmates in the world. We all know that prisons are one scary place, mainly because of who's in them. We all see bad criminals in newspapers from time to time, but these are the scariest and most dangerous prison inmates you don't even know about. Before we get into it, be sure to subscribe to my new channel. Discover what's new today. Link's in the top right corner now. Check it out. Coming in at number 10, we have The Real Pennywise. We all know the hit book, miniseries, and now It movie. It is about a clown that goes around scaring kids and taking their lives. This is good for a fright, but it's all fiction, right? Well, not exactly, because back in the 1980s, which is when the It movie, there was a real-life version of Pennywise. The guy was called John Wayne Gacy, and he was, on the surface, a normal husband and father, but he had a crazy secret life. He began to dress up as a character he called Pogo the Clown. Pogo was supposed to be like Bozo, but as I said, this guy's more like Pennywise. That is because he would volunteer at children's parties. During this time, he would take as many kids as possible and then take their lives. They found missing people in his cruel space inside his house and in a nearby river. He's gone down as one of the most scary and most dangerous criminals to ever exist. Luckily, he's locked up behind bars today, but this still doesn't change how terrifying he really is. I'm pretty sure this guy's put a lot of people off clowns forever. Next up is Lobster Boy. This criminal is very odd and has lived one of the most odd lives ever lived. His real name is Grady Franklin Stiles Jr. He was nicknamed Lobster Boy thanks to a condition that's common in his family. He went into the carnival at the age of 7, as there weren't many things he could do thanks to his hands. He later got married to another carnival performer, but as he aged, he became angry and drank way too much, which caused him to turn evil. He was horrible to his wife and 4 kids, 2 of which had hands like he did. When one of his kids without the odd hand grew up and got married, he became jealous and shot her husband in the face. He went to prison, but was released years later. He then began to say he would do the same thing he did to his kid's husband to his wife, as she'd got remarried when he was locked up. But his wife didn't want to take any chances, so she paid another carnival worker $1,500 to take him out. Nobody came to his funeral, and on his grave was just his name and 2 praying hands. Next up is Eyeball Man. This is not only one of the scariest and most dangerous criminals, but he's also one of the scariest looking men on this planet. In 2012, he was arrested for shooting a cop in a bathroom argument. Now that's bad enough, but that isn't what brought him media attention. What brought him all this attention was the scary tattoos he had all over his face. He's obsessed with tattoos and has over 20 just on his face. But his face isn't the only place he has tattoos. He also has a tattooed black eyeball, which is why many people call him Eyeball Man. His real name is Jason Barnum, and he is one scary looking guy. From his Facebook photos, we can also see this guy has tattoos all over his entire body. Not only that, he's got a giant skull tattoo on the top of his head, so maybe he should be called Skull Man instead. This guy looks so scary. Even if he hadn't committed a crime, I think he'd still make this list. I know you shouldn't normally judge a book by its cover, but perhaps this guy is an exception. Coming up next is the Red Ripper. This guy's nickname is the Red Ripper. It's a parody of Jack the Ripper, who took the lives of hundreds of women in England many years ago. And the red part is because this guy's from Rostov in the Soviet Union, which is now Russia. His real name is Andrei Chikatilo, and he took the lives of over 52 women and children over a span of 12 years. He was a suspect in many crimes for many years and was in and out of jail, but there was never enough evidence to convict him of anything serious. Finally, after a police snare in 1990, he was caught and confessed to taking 36 people's lives. But this was found to be an understatement, and he was convicted of doing this to 52 people in 1992. However, it seems the Russian police wanted him to get some karma, so they took his life as a punishment. I'm not trying to make fun of anyone's appearance this year either, but this guy looks seriously creepy as well. He just looks like a typical James Bond villain, don't you think? Next up is Monster. Now, there's a very good reason I'm calling this woman a monster. That's because she is so evil, it's Hollywood worthy. A movie was made about her and her crimes, and Charlize Theron won many awards for playing her in the movie Monster. Her real name is Aileen Wuornos, and she's one of the only women on this list. But don't worry, ladies, this is a good thing as she is awful. She took the lives of 7 men between the years 1989 and 1990. She unfortunately did have a pretty rough childhood, but that still didn't stop people from being seriously angry when her crimes came to light in 1991. She was arrested and confessed to everything 4 days later. She remained in jail for about 11 more years until she passed away herself thanks to the jury vote. In court, she was acting crazy and freaked out all the jurors and even the judge. The reason she got such a harsh sentence is because she showed absolutely no remorse and said she would happily do it all again. Next up is game show contestant. This is not only one of the most scary and dangerous men ever, but one of the creepiest. His name is Rodney Alcala, and he took the lives of 5 women in the 1970s, but he subsequently admitted to doing this 34 more times. And now, cops believe he's done this more than 140 times across the USA after more investigations. But the creepy thing about this guy that he will always be remembered for is appearing on a game show called The Dating Game. And believe it or not, he actually won. He was introduced by the host as a photographer, which is creepy as he would lure his victims, who were mainly models, to him by saying this. In the show, the woman would ask questions to a bunch of guys to determine which guy was the best to go out with according to the audience. One of the women named Cheryl's question said, "What's the best time?" He replied, "Nighttime, because night is the only time there is, and night is when things really get good." There were a lot more creepy answers to questions I won't even get into, but in the end, she said he was too creepy to go out with despite him winning. Talk about good judgment. Well done, Cheryl. You quite literally dodged a bullet. Next up is Underwear Strangler. Yeah, as you can tell by this guy's name, he is seriously strange. This guy's real name is Johann Unkunvergen, but he went as Jack. He's Austrian, and ever since his youth, he was in and out of jail for petty theft and things like that. But in 1974, he changed for the worse. He strangled a woman with her own bra until she passed. He then did this to around 40 more women, and then moved to LA where he did it some more. He got caught, but was somehow freed from prison, but then later went on to do it 4 more times. Finally, the LAPD stopped him, and he was given a life sentence. But the creepy thing about this guy is he was writing for magazines during all this, and people didn't even know it was him writing. Imagine your favorite columnist doing something like this. I don't know about you, but that would really freak me out. And even after he went to jail, he was still writing in his cell. He was in prison for around 4 years, but then chose to take his own life by a similar method he used on other people. I guess that's karma for you. Next up is Human Plague. This is a nickname nobody wants to have, unless perhaps you're Mary Malone. This woman holds the all-time record for taking the most lives accidentally. She was a cook in New York to wealthy families, and in some offices too. But everywhere she went, a terrible scenario seemed to play out. Within 2 weeks of any place she became a cook, at all of the residents or workers developed serious conditions. And as healthcare back then wasn't so great, a huge amount of people ended up passing away. She was investigated by the police many times as they spotted a very obvious pattern of this happening over 20 times. But Mary denied doing anything to the food and said it was all one big coincidence. When it turned out, Mary herself was very ill. She knew this and caused all the food to become bad and give others illnesses. She claimed she had no idea about it. She was treated and then lived freely outside of jail. And the police actually acted like she was a victim because she was sick. But in a diary entry found decades later, she revealed she knew about her condition the entire time. Watch out for your lunch, ladies, kids. Next up is BTK. This guy's real name is Dennis Rader, but the authorities and the media called him BTK. I'm sure you can tell why that is by the name itself. It stands for bind, torture, and kill, which was his modus operandi. He took the lives of 10 people in Kansas in the late 1970s and throughout the 1980s. This is one scary dude. He sent hundreds of letters to the police and newspapers taunting them and telling them about his plans. inmates. He was known for his flashy style and was particularly proud of the way he did everything he did. Eventually, in 2005, he was caught and is now serving 10 life sentences. He was never even able to get the death penalty, which he always wanted. So he spent the last days of his life wishing he'd done more or taken more lives or some other evil stuff. This guy is known for being such a crazy person. He was obsessed with the idea of being caught and watching people suffer, and that's why he's on this list. Next up, bonus highlight: the Midnight Man. This man is Raymond Andrew Joubert, alternatively known as the Midnight Man, portrayed by Carol Struycken, the main antagonist of the Stephen King novel Gerald's Game and its 2017 film adaptation. He is a serial killer and necrophile, a deranged man who appears to Jessie Burlingame during her ordeal. He suffers from acromegaly, which makes his hands, arms, and face grossly enlarged. For 7 years, he traveled to crypts in small towns in Maine to rob the bodies of jewelry, limbs, genitals, and more. The Midnight Man from Gerald's Game is inspired by real-life killer Ed Gein, known for his gruesome crimes. Edward Theodore Gein, also known as the Butcher of Plainfield or the Plainfield Ghoul, was an American murderer, suspected serial killer, and body snatcher. Police found that Ed Gein had systematically robbed graves and collected body parts, which he used to make household items, clothing, and masks. They also discovered the head of Mary Hogan, a tavern operator who had disappeared in 1954. Definitely a madman. As I said, guys, be sure to check out my new channel, Discover What's New Today. Head over there right now. Thanks for watching. Check out some more videos on screen right now. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Subscribe to my channel. Let me know in the comments who you think is the most dangerous inmate ever. And don't forget to subscribe to Discover What's New Today. Thanks for watching.